Ladies and gentlemen, after literal years of waiting for the Wizard Tower to open, it may actually be happening. My name is Derailious, and welcome back to Skyblock News. On top of this, we have a bunch of other things to go over. A new chest has appeared, a bunch more balance changes have happened, and fishing is still nerfed, but has received some improvements to compensate for the day's changes. Let's get right into it. Starting off here, if you end up going to the back of where the Dark Auction is, there's a new chest that you can see. If you end up clicking on it, you can see that it says, you haven't unlocked this yet. Somehow, the Wizard Tower might have something to do with it. This is on the Alpha Network. Now, if you end up heading over to the Wizard Tower, something else is pretty interesting about it. If you end up flying up inside, because let's be real, who takes the ladder, and you hop into the portal, you can see that it still says, give me 2 to 3 business days to fix. As well, there's a new NPC here, Elise. She has a pretty cool skin. Now, the thing I want to talk about most here is the fact that it says something different on the main server. If you log into Hypixel Skyblock right now and hop into the portal, you can see that it says 1 to 2 business days. Now, you might be thinking, well, doesn't that mean they just didn't push the update onto the Alpha Network? What does that really mean? Well, it's simple. Barry hasn't been elected yet on the Alpha Network. He has been elected on the main server, and this change happened the moment Barry was put into office. This means that Barry is what's controlling the Wizard Tower. He is what's controlling that portal, and electing him is directly reducing the timer. Now, does this necessarily mean that we're going to have to elect Barry again in order to open it? Maybe. Or maybe we've already, achieved that goal and it will be coming automatically next week. But I will say this. If the mayors for a certain week don't really look that good, well, you know which one to pick. Moving on to fishing changes, there's a lot to go over here. Pretty much every fishing pet in the game has been changed slightly to have either new perks or new systems involved. Fishing has been greatly reduced in speed, as I talked about in my previous video. However, it is not as severe as it was in my previous video. Instead of around a 70% XP reduction, we're looking at around a 50% XP reduction, which is significant, although it may not seem like it. Do I think this change is warranted? No, definitely not. Do I think a 10% nerf would have been more than fine? Yeah, sure. However, I do kind of understand where the admins are coming from on this. Fishing is one of the easier skills to get nowadays, especially in terms of how much money you have to put into it in order to be effective. However, I'm not some pro fisher. My fishing level is only like 29, so maybe I shouldn't really be speaking on this issue at all. Driop made a pretty great video going over the changes in depth, so if you want to yell at the admins or come back here to yell at me, feel free to go to that video first to understand what every single stat is that is changing. Moving on to our final change of the day, it's a pretty big one and a pretty big buff for the Ender Dragon pet. We're looking at a buff from 25% on the End Strike perk to 200% bonus damage against end mobs. Now, this doesn't really seem that huge. The End isn't really like super meta right now, aside from, Enderman and Void Glooms and all that. But it does seem more important, especially considering that we're getting new End content next week. So this will definitely be a pet that people will love to use. I'm assuming that the new content next week will be some sort of rift in terms of moving you from one location to another, probably some sort of combat challenge or, fast-paced arena, at least that's what I'm hoping for. Maybe even a horde mode, that would probably be really sick. But yeah, that's the big change to the Ender Dragon pet, one that I think will make it shoot up in price, at least temporarily. So that about wraps up today's video of Skyblock News. I hope you all enjoyed. Please make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't done so already, and look to the future, fellas, because I will see you then.